Have you ever been plagued by ads for one of those shopping apps? Essentially, they're just apps that are designed to make you jump on and spend money. They sell a bunch of products from, China and overseas, and they advertise rock bottom prices in order to get you to spend a lot of time on the app and in turn, spend money. Well, I have been plagued by one such app over this last year or so. I've seen ads for it, I've heard it talked about, and recently I discovered that they have fishing equipment on this app. So, being a fisherman, I decided, well, let's take a look at this app, let's buy some fishing equipment on it, and we'll test out the lures and fishing equipment and see if it's any good. Now, I am not going to mention the name of this app in this video, partly because I think the app's kind of scammy and weird. I do not like the business model that they push, and I also just don't want to give them free publicity. Honestly, if you've seen one of these shopping apps, you've kind of seen them all. They kind of all follow the same format and marketing gimmick and style. So the first thing we're going to need is a rod and reel. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. Okay, we got a lot of options here. What's this? This one right here. This is an all-metal spinning reel. Smooth fishing experience, long cast. It has a little wood handle for $12.49. I got to add that just to see. So they do have some recognizable brands here. They have a Penn fishing rod here for $100, which sounds about right price-wise. But then they have a lot of reels, like $9 for a reel. What is this? Is it $9? Some of these prices are really weirding me out. Again, I don't know what to expect, but for $9, I'm not expecting much. Okay, here we go. This one looks pretty decent. This is an all-metal spool. Yeah, I don't think the whole thing's metal, but this is kind of a black little reel here. It looks decent. $23. We'll add it to the cart. Okay, select a model, and let's go with that. Sure. Okay. So we got a fishing reel. Let's go ahead and look for some fishing lures. And I'm very interested to see what they have for fishing lures. Okay. All right. We got some of this stuff looks fairly standard as to like what you'd see on Amazon. Okay, here's something interesting. They have what looks to be a ripoff of like a live target lure for $3. Those baits can go for like $10. So add to cart. Let's get a green one, I guess. Okay, this one looks really weird. This is a Bionic Cicada hard fishing lure. It's like a little topwater bait, but it's got like little paddle wheels out the side. Very weird, very interesting. Never seen this bait before from any retailer, much less this place. So we got to get one of these. Boom. Add to cart. This is a multi-jointed swim bait with a propeller for big bass. And this is only $6. So let's grab that. Sure. Grab it. All right. Boom. Okay. We have to get this, dude. This is a crazy looking lure. This is a submergible bass fishing lure. And it's literally a hammerhead shark. A multi-jointed hammerhead shark swim bait. We got to get it. It actually looks kind of cool. What else do they have? Oh, that's weird. They have a Bionic swim bait that looks like a little goldfish. Interesting. We got to grab that. Weird stuff on here, man. I tell you. What else do they have? Okay, what in the Sam Hill is this? That's a fishing lure. Wow, that looks like something I would have made when I was like 5 years old. It's a block of soft plastic with a silicone skirt just dangling out the side. It's like a hairball. That's one of the weirdest things I've seen. Okay, I just want like a basic crankbait, something that I can fish with. It's not going to be too offensive. This is an interesting little soft plastic worm. Looks kind of cool. We'll grab that. Yeah, it's fine. 20 piece. A 20 piece for $4. Not a bad deal. $1. This is a $1 lure right here, folks. A tiny little crankbait. I don't know how big it is. Okay, those look pretty decent, I think. I hope. We'll just grab one of those. Let's go with that color. Oh, here's another one. This is a sinking minnow for $1. And why not? All right. That should be enough. We have 12 things in our shopping cart. Okay, how much did we spend in all? All right, we spent about $90. So it's been a couple of weeks since I put in my order and all of the stuff has arrived. Now it's time to take a look at this stuff and see what my first initial thoughts are on these products. All right, we got all kinds of stuff here. Let's start with the smaller packages and kind of work our way up to the bigger stuff. I honestly kind of forgot what all I ordered, so this is going to be interesting. Starting off with this little package right here. So we have a tiny little crankbait slash minnow bait here. Let's go ahead and pop it out of the package and see how it feels. Honestly, the build quality looks pretty good. I don't hate the shape of lure. Doesn't look too bad. We'll have to see how this performs when you put it in the water. And we got another little package here. I'm guessing this is gonna be another small bait. Let's pop this open. Yes, this is another little crankbait slash minnow bait here. Okay, this one I will say looks a little bit better than the last one. It's got more of a traditional kind of Rapala look to it. The bill is actually a little steeper here, which means this is probably gonna have a little bit better action in the water. And the hooks don't feel that bad. Let's do this one. I don't know what this is. Again, we're gonna rip it on open and check it out. Okay, ooh, this is the goldfish bait. I was actually really curious when I saw this bait what this is gonna look like. This bait is unique and kind of weird. And honestly, just looking at it in the package, it looks kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. Boom, there you go. That is the crankbait. Again, it's supposed to imitate a little goldfish. It's got kind of this tail that flops around in the back, and it's got a nice bill up front. Honestly, the build quality of this bait feels quite good. It's got kind of a matte finish to it. Moving on, we have this thing right here. Let's take a look and see. Okay, so this is the Live Target ripoff. If you don't know, Live Target make hyper-realistic baits, and I have to say, this bait feels really, really good. I wish I had a Live Target counterpart to compare directly. This bait actually feels very good. It feels premium. It doesn't feel cheap like these other ones. This feels really nice. Let's go to this. I don't know what this is. We're gonna break it open and take a look. Boom, bada bing. Jointed swim bait, but this has a little propeller in the center of it. Very, very interesting design right there. I'm gonna be honest, this bait feels cheap right off the bat. It feels nothing like that Live Target bait. This feels cheap. It looks pretty cool, I will say, but the overall construction and the actual action seems a bit stiff. Okay, let's move on to plastics. I bought some plastics off this app as well, and I wanted to see what they felt like when compared to traditional brands that you might buy here in the US. So here we go. We got a pack of soft plastics here. It's got a lot of Chinese writing on it, so I don't really know what it says. Okay, I have to say, these baits are really, really soft. As you can see, they stretch like crazy. Kind of reminds me of the Z-Man soft plastics. I was not expecting this level of quality. Like, this feels like quite premium, which is, again, kind of a shock. These do not feel like stiff, cheap plastic lures. These feel premium. Let's go ahead and unbox one of the reels. I bought 2 reels, and let's take a look and see what they look like. This brand is called Gold Sharking, which is a great name for fishing reels. Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna pull this guy out of the package here. Woof. Okay, this was the one that had the little wooden handle, if I remember correctly. Yeah, okay, this feels very, very cheap. It does have, I think it does have a real wood handle though on it, which is cool. But yeah, this doesn't feel really premium. Oof. Yeah, it feels and sounds cheap. It does have a metal spool, which is good, but the overall body is made of plastic. It does not feel very well balanced. It feels kind of clunky. Yeah, I mean, it's about what I expected for the price point, honestly. Moving on to one of the weirder lures that I saw on the app. It is this like weird like bug slash paddle wheel topwater bait. And yeah, this is really weird. Wow, this is so odd. As you can see, it's got kind of this bug, I guess you call it kind of a cicada kind of body to it, and then it's got 2 little paddles for wings. I will say these paddles do not spin very good. They feel kind of clunky and they kind of stick. And they feel like, oh, okay, the paddles feel like I could just literally break them with my hands. Despite it being November outside, I am gonna put this in the water and see what it looks like. That'll be interesting to see what kind of action this bait has. Okay, moving on to one of the weirdest things I saw on the app. I remember what this is, and this is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. Again, this is so weird, but we'll take a look at it. We have that. There it is. It is literally just a little block of soft plastic with a bunch of little pieces of silicone skirt stuck through it. This reminds me of something that I would have made when I was like 10, when I was getting into like tying my own flies and making my own lures. These are so odd. Let's go ahead and unbox this fishing reel right here. If I remember correctly, this might have been the higher end fishing reel. So let's pop this out of the package and take a look. Okay, this already looks more promising. The reel comes in like a little cloth bag. So that's interesting. We'll pull it on out. Yeah, okay, this definitely was the higher end fishing reel. First of all, it feels kind of loose, floppy. Let me tighten this down here. Okay, I have to say, the actual reel part of the reel feels sturdy. It feels well built. It's definitely made of metal. The majority of the body is metal, which is better than this reel. And the drag sounds pretty good. Honestly, not terrible. Does it feel like a premium reel? No. It does not feel super premium. However, it does feel usable. And last but not least, I'm fairly sure I know what this is. This is by far the weirdest thing I saw on the entire app. This was such an odd looking lure, I just had to buy it. This is the Hammerhead Shark Swimbait. You heard that right. Hammerhead Shark Swimbait. Here we go. Boom, there it is, the Hammerhead Shark. This is, wow, this is a unique looking bait. As you can see, it's a multi-jointed swim bait. It's got, honestly, that doesn't feel too bad. It's got the hammerhead, you know, head, I guess you would say, on it. I am really curious to see how this is gonna look in the water. This bait is honestly kind of cool. It doesn't feel super premium. Again, it feels somewhat cheap, but it's kind of cool. Like, I like sharks, and to have a shark like swim bait, it's kind of neat. So I get the appeal as far as just being a novelty item. This is kind of cool. But nevertheless, let's take this stuff out on the water, give it a test, and see if we can't catch some fish. So the first bait that I tested out is this cicada top water paddle thingamabob. The first thing that I noticed about this bait when I put it in the water is that it does move a decent amount of water. The paddles definitely work, and if you give this bait a little bit of speed, it can push a nice wake and make a lot of noise. However, one thing that I noticed about this bait right away is that it is rather clumsy in the water. Even though it does put off a decent wake and it spits water and causes a bit of a disturbance on the surface, it doesn't have the most natural gliding action. Take, for example, a whopper plop or even a buzzbait. You can throw those out, reel them in, and they're gonna cause a nice disturbance on the surface of the water, but they also have a nice fluid motion to them, and they're fairly easy to pull across the surface. So that's just one complaint, is that this bait does feel cheap, especially when you put it in the water. It doesn't have a fluid motion through the water. Yes, it does make a disturbance. Again, this bait does not move through the water very smoothly, and in my opinion, it doesn't have a really natural action. Now, I'm sure you could catch fish with this bait, given the right circumstances, but this is probably not gonna stay in my tackle box. The next bait that I tried is this bait right here. This is the kind of glide bait slash swim bait type of deal right here. It's got the little propeller in the center. And honestly, this bait's action isn't that bad once you start a stop and go retrieve. If you fish this bait pretty fast while popping your rod tip, you're gonna get a nice darting, fluttering side to side action that honestly I think looks pretty decent. One thing that I was a little bit concerned about when I initially unpackaged this bait is the fact that the actual tail design is very stiff, and that is apparent. This bait definitely has a stiffer action. However, this bait was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, and again, like I said, I like the paint job, so overall, I'd say this bait is decent. The next bait that I want to try out is this one right here. This is the little goldfish swim bait thing, and I have to say, again, the build quality of this bait feels good. It's got kind of a matte finish. It feels a lot more premium than some of the other baits in here. I'm just hoping that this has a decent action because I think that'd be kind of cool. Let's put it in the water and take a look. Okay, so initially out of the box, I have to say this bait's action is not good at all. It just tumbles through the water. Every now and then you get a little bit of side-to-side action, but it's so out of tune that it just rolls pretty much when you try to put any speed behind it. So I'm gonna try and tune it a little bit, see if I can't get it to run straight, because every now and then I get a little bit of action and the action looks good, but the bait just wants to roll. So I did tune this bait a little bit and I did get it to run a lot straighter. However, the problem that I ran into is every now and then while you're retrieving this bait, the tail will actually get stuck in kind of like this position right here. It'll get twisted and then it'll just lock up and the bait will just lose all its action. Another thing that I noticed about this bait is that when I went to tune it with the pliers, as soon as I moved the eye, the plastic actually started to separate right up in here. So overall, I'm gonna say this bait is a thumbs down for me. It looks cool, the idea is cool, but at least this one that I have doesn't swim very good. Like I said, again, even when it's tuned to swim straight, the tail keeps getting balled up. Okay, next up we have this little jerk bait, minnow bait right here. This is one of the ones I was really excited about. This one in particular has a really nice shape to it. I just made a couple casts with it and I noticed that, again, it was running out of tune, so I had to tune it. I got it running straight, and I have to say the action of this bait is pretty lackluster. It does have a little bit of a quivering back and forth action, but it's not nearly as much as I was expecting, especially with the size lip that comes on this thing. I was expecting a little bit more of an aggressive side-to-side action. This bait just has a very slight quivering action, which for me personally is not super great. I like my little crankbaits to have a nice bite and put off a lot of vibration in the water. However, this little crankbait fared much better. It actually ran straight out of the package for me, which was a huge plus. I didn't have to tune it, and the action of this bait is just way better. It's got a nice side-to-side action, fairly aggressive side-to-side action for a bait this size. Okay, so the next bait that I want to test out is this one. This was kind of the knockoff live target jerk bait. I'm gonna throw it on the bigger spinning rod. I'm gonna cast it into this little pool right behind me. There is smallmouth in here, so maybe a smallmouth will whack this, I don't know. I'm just gonna start off just with a slow retrieve here. Okay, so honestly, it has a decent action when you retrieve it slow. Not bad. It gets down pretty deep. Let me pop the rod tip a little bit and see what this bait looks like once you pop it. Not bad, not bad. So upon throwing this around a little bit, I got a couple of takeaways. First of all, this bait does have an okay action in the water. When you crank it, it's got a decent swimming action. It's not the most aggressive that I've ever seen. It's a little bit more stiff. And when you pop this bait through the water, it's got, you know, kind of the traditional kind of jerk bait style action. Overall, not bad. Overall, I'd say this lure is okay. Okay, now on to the lure that I'm sure we've all been waiting to check out. I know I've been waiting to try this one out. That is the hammerhead shark swim bait. I don't expect anything in this creek to hit this bait, but we're gonna throw it around a little bit, see what the action is like. All right, first cast with the shark. Kerplunk, into the water it goes. And just gonna retrieve it, retrieve it, retrieve it. Yo. What? Dude, this is actually really, this bait's got a nice action. I am shocked. It's got a really nice side-to-side swimming action. Yeah, I'm honestly kind of impressed with this bait. Again, weird, different, but this has like one of the best actions out of all the baits I've tried so far. There we go, got one. Bada boom, bada bing, on that little soft plastic. Put it on a little jig head, threw it out there. Nice smallmouth, absolutely chomped it. What more can I say? This little soft plastic is actually really good. It's decent. It just caught a fish. It's got a really limber action. Again, it's really stretchy. And the fish like it, so that bait's good. And the last bait I have left to try is this little guy right here. This little cube of plastic with some silicone skirts hanging out of it. Yeah, not super impressed with that. I rigged it up on a little jig head, as you can see, like this. So it kind of looks a little bit like a jig, but I'm gonna fire it out here and see what the action looks like. My hopes are not high. All right, first cast, put it in the water. Let's see what we got. Okay, it's not as bad as I was expecting. Okay, so honestly, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought this was gonna be an absolutely terrible product, but it turns out it's more of just like a meh product. Like, there is a little bit of action here. The silicone skirt does its job. It kind of hangs out the back and flutters. But yeah, in my personal opinion, this is not super great. You could just buy a jig and you're gonna have way better action than this little guy. All right, so I wanna test out these reels that I bought off the app. First of all, I'm gonna start off with the best feeling reel. This is the 13 ball bearing, allegedly, GT 5000. Just got a little square bill tight on here. I'm just gonna make a couple casts with this thing, see how it casts and see how it handles. So like I mentioned, this reel is not a very light reel. It doesn't feel particularly well balanced. It feels a little bit clumsy. It does have a little bit of a noise when you're reeling, kind of a squeaking noise. It kind of sounds like a reel that's already been used quite a bit. Okay, now I'm testing out the BK 2000. This is a gear ratio of 5.21. This is the cheapest reel that I bought. It comes with a real wood handle though, so that's kind of interesting. Let's see how it casts. Okay, doesn't feel too bad. Definitely sounds very creaky. Honestly, this doesn't feel super great. So, after testing all those products, what are my final thoughts on this shopping app? Well, I have a number of thoughts. The first thought is, I don't recommend this app to anybody. Now, the products that I actually bought off the app ranged kind of on a spectrum from absolute trash to somewhat decent and usable. It's really hit or miss. You don't really know what you're buying, so you may get a product that is okay and actually works and is a decent value for the money, but most likely, you just kind of get subpar junk that doesn't really work super well. And that's the biggest thing for me, is you never really know what you're gonna get on this app. I will say though, I really kind of liked the shark swim bait. I don't know why, it kind of cracked me up, and it had a decent action in the water. I'm probably gonna cut off the hooks and like give it to one of my little cousins as a gift, because it's like a cool little shark toy at the very least. And then that little crankbait that I got, the little gold one, that one had a really good action in the water, and I was actually really impressed. When it came to the reels, it's kind of what I expected. The cheap reel felt really cheap and like it was gonna fall apart. And then the more expensive reel was a little bit better. However, it still had kind of a rubbing noise, and it felt kind of clumsy and not very well made. As far as my personal opinion of the app, I'm gonna be deleting it off my phone. I will probably never use the app again. I'd rather just buy lures from name brands that I trust, that have consistently giving me quality lures and not roll the dice with a weird app like this. But anyways, it was a fun experiment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay hooked. I'll see you later.